Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, October 27th meeting of the Bennington Select Board. We are coming to you from the Bennington Fire Facility, the third floor multi-purpose room on River Street in Bennington. My name is Tom Haley. I have the honor of chairing this board, and I will ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Hello, Jim Sullivan. Good evening, Jackie Matz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Clark Adams.
And I'm Ed Woods.
All right. Also with us is Town Manager Dan Monks. I see Shannon Barsati over at the table. I see Nancy Lively, who is ready to take excellent minutes. I think I saw Jonah Spivak. Yep, Jonah Spivak is in the audience, our communications coordinator. Also with us is Josh Boucher and Taver Coulter from Cat TV, who are making sure this gets out to the community live this evening. We'll start tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, as we always do. Ed, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks very much. And Ed, could you also share our vision statement, which guides our work?
I can. Our vision statement states that Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of October 13th, the warrants, and the licenses. For the purpose of discussion, could I please have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion on the minutes, the warrants, or the licenses? Nancy?
In the warrants, page 7, 404378. Vermont Voltage, $3,000. Berkshire Y program space. This is for Catamount, correct?
That's correct.
And how much is the Y now paying?
Shannon, do you know what their additional payment is? $3,500 additional per month. Yep.
I thought at the meeting they said 7,000. Would that be wrong?
It may have gone up since
Okay, we really need to get it on the agenda, to be fair to everybody. A discussion about what they talked about at the senior center. I said it really needed to be on the board so the board and the public could hear about this and talk about it. They provided information I didn't know about, the rest of the board doesn't know, and the public doesn't know.
Okay.
And there were a lot of questions at the meeting, and I'm sure the Y would have no problem coming in, so
Actually,
we really need to have them come in and talk.
I'll give you a sneak preview of upcoming agendas, Nancy. The Y will be on our either the second meeting this month or in December.
And will the CEO be coming in?
We're still talking to them on that, but we'll have information for you before then. Do you have anything else on the warrants?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Okay. Then let's vote, shall we? All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. All right, next up we have public comment, which I did grab the sheet for. Here it is. I will remind everyone that public comment is for sharing information with the community that does not otherwise appear on the agenda. Please do keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If any questions are raised, please take a seat after you've spoken, and if we are able, we'll address those, if we can, quickly at the end of the public comment period. We'll start with Jonah Spivak, who wants to talk about the survey.
Good evening, Jonah Spivak, Communications Coordinator for the Town of Bennington. Good evening. There we go. Thank you. Jonas Spivak, Communications Coordinator for the town of Bennington. And I wanted to remind everyone that the time is now to fill out the 2025 Bennington Community Survey. And even though it is the Bennington Community Survey, it's not just for residents. We also want to hear from people that work in Bennington or shop in Bennington. We do ask demographic information so we know where folks are coming from. So when we interpret everyone's responses, we take that into account. But we really want to encourage as many people as possible to take the survey. So how do you do it? Go to benningtonvt.org, scroll down till you see the quick links, and it's right there. Take the 2025 Bennington Community Survey. You can also get a hard copy of it at the Bennington Town Offices, the Bennington Free Library, the Bennington Recreation Center, or the Senior Center. Or call the town offices and we'll mail you one. But do it quick, because this Friday is the deadline for your survey, so please do take just 9 minutes to answer 21 questions that will help inform what your town is doing for you for the next couple of years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonah. Next, we have Deb Matt on the Senior Center.
Deb Matt, Bennington. I don't know how to start this. I'm not good at this. I said it before, and I'll say it again. I believe it's a big conflict of interest having the senior center under the Y. We have had a couple of meetings, private meetings with the town regarding the issues and our concerns, but I feel we still need someone to be an advocate for the seniors. The Y is all about the Y, and I don't feel that we've gotten in any new programs for the seniors than what we already had.
Thanks, Deb. And now we have Kate Coast, CPARB Forum.
Kate Cost, Bennington. I'm the chair of CPARB. This is a reminder that our second Public Safety Education Forum is next Thursday, November 6th, from 6 to 8 p.m. in the multipurpose room in the firehouse. The focus of this safety education program is on the role Vermont's current sentencing policy and practices play in ensuring safety and crime prevention. The forum brings together members of the legislature and public and nonprofit professionals, including Ralph Bennett, Director of Housing and Corrections at Turning Point, Fred Bragdon, Bennington Public Defender, Letha Cipriano, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Restorative Justice, Gina Kondo, District Manager of Probation and Parole within the Department of Corrections, Robert Plunkett, Vermont State Senator and member of the Legislative Oversight Committee, and Dr. Alia Reeve, Medical Director and Chief Medical Officer for United Counseling Services. The forum has three specific goals related to sentencing. The first is to provide an overview of factors in sentencing that influence crime prevention strategies in Vermont. The second is to improve understanding on why offenders of serious crime are often released without jail or prison time. And the third is to inform the public on the roles public agencies and nonprofits play and the resources they can provide in the successful completion of sentencing as detailed in court orders. We have a fourth goal. It's really specific to CPARB, and that's to improve the understanding of folks on the role CPARB has in educating and informing the community on current best practice in crime prevention and law enforcement. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak that did not have a chance to sign up?
Hello, Leslie Addison, North Bennington, Vermont. I just want to give a counterbalance to my neighbor to say that this white-haired senior attends the Y on a regular basis, and I can say that in my experience, the staff, the programs, the services, the attitude, the motivation of the staff that I have dealt with is all about the seniors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Leslie. Anyone else?
I'd like to just, short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
I heard that. Thank you for the meeting that you held on the listening session. I thought it was very good, very productive, and I hope you follow through with the some of the ideas that were presented by the people over there. And thank you. Told you it was short and sweet.
I barely had time to make a note of what you said. All right, thanks very much. Anyone else? Clark?
Hi, I just want to clarify something because I was confused by it myself. The town survey is not the BCRC survey. At Harvest Fest, I was stopped by the BCRC guys and they said, hey, I've already done that. And they said, no, this is ours. So if those of you have not had a chance to do either, please do both.
Okay, thanks, Clark. All right, next up, we have our first public hearing on the adoption of the proposed new town plan. And we are going to begin that with a presentation from BCRC staff.
Tom, do you mind if I just say a few words?
Go ahead.
Because, as you know, I did serve as staff for the Planning Commission throughout the entire process, and I just want to say a few words of thanks to the Planning Commission members, and I'm going to name them because I think they deserve to be named, the amount of work they did on this project. Bridget Elder, Nicholas Lassoff, Rena Massenletti, Bruce Lehrman, Michael McDonough, who no longer serves on the Planning Commission but did until recently, Kenneth Swearad, Curran Vanderwill, and Evan Yudeski. These folks put in literally thousands of hours on this project, unpaid, and put their heart and soul in it. And I want to give a special shout out to Nick Lassoff, who was our editor-in-chief. He read every word, probably 50 times, and did an incredible job. And these folks, this is what why our community is so successful, because these types of folks volunteer their precious time to benefit their community. So they deserve a shout out. So I just wanted to make sure they were recognized.
Well said, Dan. Thanks. Now you're up.
So I'm Samantha Page. I'm a regional planner with the Bennington County Regional Commission. And we worked as a consultant on behalf of the Planning Commission and the town to sort of bring together a lot of community engagement that happened in 2023 and 2024, and then really work through all of that, try to understand as much as possible so that we could inform and guide the direction of the town plan that we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm just going to give a very brief overview of what that community engagement looked like and how it shaped the plan that the Planning Commission worked so hard on and had their own public hearings on earlier this fall. And then I'll really turn it over to the board and the Planning Commission members who are here and members of the public. So as I mentioned, there was an extensive phase of community engagement that went into this plan. We tried to use a variety of strategies so that we could really connect with as many members of the public as possible. That included postcards that went out to public school students in Bennington, a survey that was online and available in hard copies, focus groups, community conversations, and tabling events. So we really tried to connect with people in as many ways as possible so that we weren't relying on any one method, and we could try to hear from as many people as possible. And as you can see, we had some really good engagement with the public. One of our most successful strategies was these postcards that we received from students. We got almost 1,000 back, and they really had a great great perspectives on how they want Bennington to look and feel in their futures. We also talked with adults about some of the same themes and topics. This is one of our first meetings in the space at the Community Rec Center. And we did some tabling at basketball games at the high school too. So we had a good time. From the postcards in particular, we heard a lot of themes that were similar to what we were hearing from adults in the community. Students who wanted more places to go and more things to do, a Bennington that is cleaner and greener, feels peaceful, safe, free of drugs and addiction, more housing and better quality housing, walking and biking friendly, and feeling safe and inclusive for everyone who wants to be here. This is one of the questions from the survey, which shows just how wide the different topics we were asking about were. Everything from, is there enough parking downtown, to how easily can you get around without a car? What's your access like to fresh food? I won't dwell on these for very long, but just to kind of give you a sense of what information we were getting back from the public. We also asked about what people's favorite things are in Bennington. What do you love about this place, and what makes you enjoy your time here? And we heard a lot about the community and how special this is, as well as natural resources and the feel of this place too. Going into the planning process, we knew what some of the main topic areas would be for the plan, in part because the state has its own set of planning goals that we all have to respond to. Every municipality has to address these in their town plan. And so we knew these topics like housing, public facilities and programs, jobs, the environment would be important, and so we emphasized those in our community engagement. And then through all of the materials that we gathered, all the feedback we heard from the public, we tried to come up with themes that were sort of a take on those topic areas, still making sure we were meeting the state's goals, but with a focus through the lens of what we heard from the public in Bennington. So not just talking about land use and the downtown, but we really heard from people that they want a vibrant downtown. So that became a core theme of the plan. These were sort of some of the biggest themes that we heard from across the board in the engagement, and they really shaped how we approached drafting the document. We also heard from people about what their values were in approaching the planning process, so not just what should go in the town plan, what the town should be doing, but how should we all be doing that. And we wanted to emphasize doing things accessibly, affordably, compassionately, innovatively, with people at the center, sustainably, transparently, and again, vibrantly, really celebrating all that Bennington has to offer. We also talked with the Planning Commission pretty early on about how they wanted to structure the plan. A big part of this comprehensive update wasn't just about refreshing the content and the information in the plan, but it was also about making a tool that would be accessible to people, that you would want to look at, that could really be useful for the community. And so we talked about a couple of different formats that we'd seen, and together with the Planning Commission's guidance, we landed on this idea of sort of a hybrid structure where there would be all the topic areas that are required by the state, but they could be grouped around some of these themes, so they would feel tied together by what we heard from the public. And so now we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, how it all came out in this final document that's available online. So as you can see at the top, there's sort of 4 key parts of the plan. And that's also reflected in the table of contents, where you can see there's a part called The Place to Be that talks about land use, a part called Bennington for All that covers economic development and housing, a part called Connected Community that talks about transportation, mobility, community services, utilities, and facilities, and then a part called Resilient Community that talks about climate hazards and energy. And then there's some appendices that include more information on the community engagement process, a little bit more information about some of the state rules that this plan is operating under, and then an implementation matrix that we'll talk about a little bit. So one thing we really wanted to emphasize in this new plan is really exciting visuals, more photos than ever before, more graphics so that it would also be really fun to look at. We had almost 1,000 postcards that we could choose from to incorporate as illustrations. So if you look through the plan, you'll see postcards all throughout related to the different topic areas. We also incorporated quotes from community members that we heard during community engagement. So this is just sort of an example of what that looks like, but throughout the plan there's quotes that again are related to sort of the topics on those pages. So this is what the sort of starting page of each part looks like. It opens with a vision statement for that particular part of the plan, and then goals that are guiding the text that follows. And so these are very ambitious statements that really show where Bennington wants to go in the future. And then within the chapters of the plan, there's more specific information about action items that the town can take to get there. But we thought it was important to reflect the ambitions that we heard from the public and really show how big Bennington is dreaming and sort of the paths along the way to get there. One of the changes in the content of the plan from the last one is this future land use map. Right now in the current Bennington town plan, the future land use map looks identical to the zoning map or nearly identical to the zoning map. And this is a little bit of a shift in that it's more conceptual. It doesn't change the zoning map. So zoning regulations, the land use regulations are still very much in place and are still guiding the details of development in Bennington. This is meant to be more of a visionary look at what land use looks like and could continue to develop as in Bennington going forward. So the categories from this are largely pulled from new state guidance that the Regional Planning Commission, BCRC, we're following in our own regional planning efforts that Clark just mentioned. So the categories are part of this broader picture that the region is going to use going forward. And then there are some adjustments that the Planning Commission decided to make sure that the land use was still reflecting local uses. So, for example, the public open space category is specific to Bennington, and that reflects the town's commitment to having public land that's accessible to everyone. It doesn't really fit in these other categories, so it felt important to break that out on its own. And in the land use section of the plan, you'll see there's descriptions of like what those land use categories feel like, what kind of development is generally encouraged or discouraged in those areas. But again, for more specific regulations on what you can build in one part of town versus another, the land use regulations, the zoning regulations are still the document to go to for that. We'll just share a couple more pages of the plan so you get a feel for what it looks like if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet. There's a section on housing, and we tried to incorporate a lot of different photos of housing around town. And again, you can see a quote that we heard from a community member, and then some of the text in pink here are links to outside documents. So if you're viewing it online, you'd be able to click on those and check out these other resources that are available. We have maps throughout the plan. A lot of those are required as part of the state's municipal plan goals, but hopefully they're also useful tools for everyone as you're sort of seeing what currently exists in Bennington and thinking about where the town's going to be going in the future. In the energy section, there's a lot of graphs and charts that show either historic use of energy in Bennington or projections for what energy usage might be looking like in the town going forward. And this section is thinking a lot about how the town can be energy efficient and what sort of local level policies or changes we can all take in, or we can all make to conserve energy and be thoughtful about that going forward. And then this is one page of an implementation matrix that is meant to gather all of the visions and goals and action items throughout the plan in one place. So if you don't want to read the whole plan, you're just looking for a specific action item about how to make it easier to get around on your bicycle, you can look to the implementation matrix in the mobility section and find specific action items for that. It has page numbers, so you can go back to the section of the plan if you want more information. It has a general timeline, so you can see, is this something that could be done right away? Is this a longer-term project? And it also includes the organizations or groups that we thought would be primarily responsible for taking it on, and then who else might be good partners for those groups. So there's a lot of town staff, select board, planning commission, and then who else might be a community partner who could really help spearhead those projects. After the plan was drafted, we did a little bit more community engagement this summer to try to spread the word that this had been pulled together, that it was going through these public hearing processes, and try to make sure that people knew that they still had time to weigh in. So these boards were located around town and gave community members a chance to sort of reflect on the goals that we had drafted and share how they aligned with what they had communicated earlier in the community engagement process. And then there were planning commission, a hearing, and then a couple of other public meetings about this. And we did get feedback that we incorporated before submitting the plan to the select board. So it has continued to evolve with what we've heard from the public, and we feel like it's a really strong reflection of all of the input that the members of this community have shared over multiple years, and hope that it can really continue to be a tool for implementing those visions going forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam. All right. There's a lot here, obviously. But this being a public hearing, I think it's fitting that we should first hear from the public. So based on what you've just heard and what I hope you have read, does anyone from the public wish to comment? Ned? Please identify yourself for the record. Thank you.
Mike's Ned Perkins, Bennington. The Bennington Select Board last adopted a town plan on October 6, 2015. On 2018, the board met to consider an amendment to that plan. The video of the meeting shows Jim Carroll saying, and I quote, "I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the amendment to the town plan as written." Carson Thurber seconded the motion, and the board voted 6-0 in approval. 2 days later, Dan Monks transmitted the amendment to Jim Sullivan at the BCRC stating, "The town of Bennington requests approval by the BCRC of the amended town plan." Now, Vermont law states that only the legislative body of a municipality can adopt or amend a town plan, and that an amendment to a plan does not extend the plan's expiration date, and that the role of a regional commission in the process is limited to consultation and review. On March 15th, 2018, the Bennington County Regional Commission held a public hearing to consider approval of the amended Bennington Town Plan as requested by the town. And then, amazingly, we are told, the BCRC determined that the town had not amended the plan, but had actually adopted an entirely new plan. I was surprised to learn about this, so I asked Max Krieger, General Counsel of Vermont's Department of Housing and Community Development, whether a regional commission has the authority to adopt a plan on the town's behalf. His response was that the regional commission must ultimately receive and review the plan for conformance with the requirements of the planning statute and regional planning goals, but the municipality itself must adopt the municipal plan. By law, all Vermont plans expire after 8 years, which means that unless it was lawfully readopted by the town itself, the Bennington Town Plan expired on October 6, 2023, and any amendments made after that date are null and void. I have found nothing in this Select Board's records to show that this body ever readopted the plan. And in fact, just 4 months ago, this Select Board settled a lawsuit on advice of counsel rather than defend the validity of the plan. I would like to respectfully request that this sitting board, as part of its due diligence in these proceedings, carefully review the official record, particularly the recording of the January 22nd, 2018 board meeting, and determine for yourself whether or not the Bennington Town Plan has expired. Thank you.
Would anyone like to comment on the proposed town plan in the audience, please? Mr. Hurley?
Hi, Ripper, Town of Bennington. If you turn to page 13, it says, where's the period? I'll just paraphrase a little bit. It talks about a smart growth planning principles, and it's about 192 or 91 page document report that was done with Smart Growth America. And my question is are we trying to turn into like New York City? Because when I looked through that principal report that they were talking about, it always talks about compact, it always talks about shrinking the footprint of housing in the sense of there would be like condominiums, there would be apartment complexes that are 60 or in Burlington's case, 122 feet tall. So I'm just curious, is that what we're trying to do here in Bennington? Are we trying to be like New York City or LA or even like Burlington where we're trying to cram the working class into apartment complexes instead of getting them into home ownership? And then I have one more, but in case other people have comments, but I just wanted to bring that up to you guys, that the smart growth principle talks about creating compact, almost like fish in a tin can, where it's like how many fish or how many people can you cram in a tight area, which almost reminds me of the Universe 25 experiment, where they created a rat utopia and created many more problems than could be foreseen, even when they gave them ample space. So I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do you want to go up and make your second point, please, Jack?
So my second point is I went to, I think it was about 3 weeks or a month ago, it's been a while now. But I went to one of the planning commissions and I asked how come nuclear energy was not in our energy report. We did solar, we did wind, we did water, we did fossil fuels, propane, but there was nothing in this town plan for nuclear. And if you take like a square foot and you can compact it as, as tight as you want, you can get more power, more energy out of nuclear versus solar, wind, water, and anything else other than fossil fuels. So my question is, how come we're abandoning one of the most fuel-efficient energy sources that could make not only Bennington, but Bennington County more energy independent? So that's my question. I just want to understand why we're not putting on the table nuclear energy, even though it's one of the best power sources. Thank you.
All right, does anyone want to respond to anything that we've heard thus far? Jim?
To Mr. Hurley's comments. Well, first of all, smart growth principles are really very context sensitive. So they certainly recognize that there are profound differences between communities in different geographical locations and of different sizes. So the same principles, general principles, might apply of concentrating development and mixed-use development in a central area and preserving more open space in the surrounding area. And that applies in Bennington as well as a larger metropolitan area, but certainly at a different scale. Certainly the heights of buildings and the footprints of buildings are going to be very different. There isn't anything in this plan that proposes a really significant change from the current land use plan and regulations, other than highlighting the fact that there are definitely efficiencies for certain development types. And as far as the notion of nuclear energy, I don't it's not, I don't think, mentioned in the plan, if it's mentioned at all, in any detail, because there's certainly no anticipation or expectation that we're going to build a nuclear power plant anywhere near Bennington, certainly not in Bennington. Whereas the renewable development already is in Bennington, and there's some contemplation for it being in Bennington in the future. So as well as fossil fuel, utilization of fossil fuels. Now, nuclear generated electricity is used in Bennington when it's purchased off the market, just like it is for natural gas powered or renewable powered generation. But I think that the lack of emphasis on nuclear is because it's realistically there's no prospect for developing nuclear facilities in Bennington.
All right. Is there anyone else from the public that would wish to comment? All right, then I will look to my board. Clark.
Good evening. I think in light of the presentation that we heard from BCRC, it might be appropriate for us to speak to the public as some of our own internal efforts to address issues within the town plan that we're currently working on that I think fit perfectly in there. For the past few weeks, the town staff, in conjunction with members of the select board, members from BCRC, and even some of our legislators, have been meeting to address these very issues. Housing is a big issue. It's our #1 issue we've been dealing with in the plan. And concurrent with housing, there's pretty much goes hand in glove with economic development. Not only currently, but historically, as we all can see around all the old mills, there's all sorts of factory housing. So even 100 years ago, the businesses in Bennington knew that in order to be successful, we needed housing for the workforce. So on that vein, we are putting together, for lack of a more better word, a task force that would include both financial and developers and even contractors, in conjunction with what I might call subject matter experts, whether it be from the various state regulatory agencies or departments, to help us better develop housing in our town and, of course, increase economic opportunities and general community welfare. So at a later date, I guess, we'll be presenting some more specific requests on how this committee can be formally advanced in the town government structure. But in keeping with the plan as presented tonight, yeah, we on the select board and other members of the town staff and VCRC are actively working in concert with the plans that are prescribed in this document.
I think there's certainly other areas too, like, for example, we're constantly updating our emergency management plans. We're already working on ways to revitalize, hopefully, the downtown. So, yeah, we have gotten a jump start on a lot of the things that are in here, but does anyone else have anything? Jim?
Yeah, Tom, I have a few notes or questions and several of the chapters, but I don't want to.
Yeah, let's each do one and with maybe a follow-up,
Okay.
and then we'll let everybody else talk and then come back.
Yeah, so if I can maybe just and first of all, Sam, Callie, Bill, great job with the plan. Dan, Planning Commission. Really, obviously, a lot of hard work and thought went into this, and thanks to everybody in the community who participated in its development. And the first chapter, there's one comment in the plan I thought I was very glad to see, and it's on page 21 in the center column, where there's a discussion of the nature of development along Northside Drive and how that's an important retail area, but the environment is, quote, unfriendly to people who access these sites by foot, bicycle, and means other than a car. And there's some recommendations. The Northside Drive, it's not only unfriendly to people, but it's also has some real significant shortcomings from an infrastructure perspective, kind of lack of stormwater and other things, stormwater management. So I would love to see us engage with the state on how to address those things. I know the state owns that road. They don't really want to own the road. The town doesn't want to own the road unless the problems are fixed. I know that's a problem that goes way back, but I would not mind seeing mention in this paragraph that one way to, or the implementation matrix perhaps, that one way to address this would be to start a dialogue with the state about Northside Drive. And I have one other in chapter 1. Can I do one other in chapter 1?
Yeah, it's same chapter, go ahead.
Okay. On page 27, there's toward the end of that page, on the second column, there's this discussion about the environmental and scenic impacts of renewable energy development. And one sentence ends, the environmental and scenic impacts of those operations must be considered. And I really, and I know this is a section dealing with scenic resources, but I don't want to leave it hanging out there without saying something to the effect of, together with the benefits they, as renewable energy development, offer in providing clean renewable energy. So, to make it balanced. That's all I have in chapter 1. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Nancy?
A couple of things. I share some of the concerns Jack has, having paid a lot of attention to zoning and what the state wants to do in Vermont. I question if the downtowns are going to end up like we really want them to be. I don't think people understand how much is being proposed to be crammed into downtowns, not just private businesses and restaurants, social programs, nonprofits, apartment buildings, and it's going to spread out into the residential neighborhoods. That's my big concern. Dan, what do we have approval for buildings in Bennington? Is it 4 or 5 story now?
Well, it depends on which zone you're in, Nancy. So if you're talking about the most compact and developed zone, which is the downtown district, it can be 5 or 6 stories total.
6?
Yep.
I thought we had approved for 5 and one more.
It's up to 6. Yep.
Well, think about that. We only have
That's
3.
been in replace for over 10 years, I think.
We only have 3-story buildings right now, and it could be a 6-story building.
Some of those 3-story buildings, though, have the height of like a 4 or 5-story building. It's 60 feet.
I thought behind the old Catamount School, that's the tallest building. Isn't that a 4-story building?
When I say stories, I mean feet, so it could be 60 feet.
Well, I'm
which are
talking
often
height,
6
yes.
stories, yeah.
We'll just have to see. And will there be anything the public can do down the road when we get into this? Will the public have any say if there's a facility or a building they really think is going to be too much? Or once this goes forward, the public won't have a say?
Well, all the things that you're talking about exist today, so this plan won't change the zoning.
No, but these changes went through about 5 years ago. A lot of things can be done now that couldn't be done prior to 5 years ago in Bennington. And not just Bennington, around the state.
So what's
I just
the
wonder
question
what
is?
our New England towns are going to look like in 10 or 15 years, and is it going to draw the tourists? And will the locals that like this be happy with so much crammed in? And I just wonder, will the public get to have a say, or is this really going to be a done deal?
Well, as you may or may not recall, Nancy, we do have form-based codes in downtown, as well as the historic preservation, or the design review district standards. So anything that's constructed will be strictly regulated as far as form and as far as design. So I don't think there's any concern that anything inappropriate will be constructed, given that the DRB has the tools to work with to make sure that doesn't
I'm
happen.
concerned about the residential neighborhoods as the downtowns come into the neighborhoods.
All those neighborhoods have different zoning from the downtown.
No, I know, but the other concern I have, I think before we can vote, we're going to need to hear from leaders, some from various groups and organizations. For a couple of years, various groups and organizations have been meeting with some town officials, making plans for, I guess, how they want Bennington to be. The problem is, I don't think the meetings were public. They should have been. Our citizens should have had a chance to participate. I don't know what the plans are for housing. I know homelessness has been discussed. I've tried to get it on the agenda for 2 years. The rest of the board doesn't want to talk about it. I think this is a big issue that the board, and especially the people of Bennington, need to hear from the leaders. What are their plans for Bennington? And we have to see what the public has to say for a response.
Nancy, I think you are leading the public astray when you indicate that there are somehow secret meetings going on around Bennington that are making plans for the town. There may be groups that are getting together that may have suggestions as to changes that might take place in the town, but if any definitive changes are going to happen, they're going to go through this board. And you will have input regardless of what happens.
It says right in the draft, I wrote it down here, town will work with community stakeholders. They're talking the groups and organizations. Everybody should be talking publicly at a select board meeting, whether it's the leaders of groups and organizations that work for the homeless, the public, town officials, and select board.
I think that's very unrealistic. I mean, if we had every meeting in open session in public, we would never get any work done. The final say, after all that work has been done, is going to be up to whatever board is seated at that point in time. But I think to say that we're working with stakeholders is to say that those stakeholders are actually going to be driving exactly what the final result is. I think those are two very different things. And I think that we need to be able to trust in our elected officials, that is this board, to make the right final decisions as to what those recommendations might have been.
But I think if there have been discussions for a couple of years, we should have had it on the agenda right now so everybody could hear what's being discussed and be included in the conversation.
So I would ask Tom, what organizations is Nancy concerned about? Because I'm not aware of any of these 2-year discussions that are happening where we're making secret plans.
So none of the town officials were meeting with the various groups and organizations. I think a lot of the meetings were online. And I don't really know the details of what people were talking about. I'm just saying at this point, we should be having public discussions.
I'm sorry, is this about the town plan?
It is.
Point of order, we are talking about the town
It is in
plan.
the town plan because it says the town will work with stakeholders. These are the groups and organizations.
So are you suggesting that we should not work with stakeholders?
I'm sorry?
Are you suggesting we should not work with stakeholders?
The stakeholders are the people of Bennington.
Sure. Should we not work with them?
And how things used to get done, if a group or organization wanted to partner with the town, they'd come to the select board and everybody could hear what they were proposing. So everybody could be part of it from the start.
That's not true, but go ahead. Jim?
So, in the context of the town plan, which is, I think, what we're talking about tonight, there are many groups and organizations throughout the community who are talking and engaging on various topics that are relevant to the town plan and to the future of Bennington, and sometimes a town official may attend those meetings. Certainly, the Planning Commission, working with the BCRC, reached out to many of those organizations, and those organizations contacted the Planning Commission to get their ideas and thoughts put into the town plan. That's the way the process is supposed to work. The Planning Commission did their job, and those community groups contributed, so thank you very much.
Back to the beginning of the table.
Nothing from me.
Okay. Clark, anything else? Jackie?
I just thank you to Samantha and the rest of the BCRC for getting us to this point. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, what is?
I would like to make a comment, and I didn't know if now is the time or not.
Let me go down the row one more time, and I'll come back to the public.
Can I? Thank you. So again, thank you to the efforts of everybody that came together. This was very enjoyable to read, actually, more enjoyable than I thought. It was a little dense in places, but and clearly very, very thorough. And I appreciate all of the work that went into it. One thing that came up in my mind when Mr. Hurley was speaking is to remember that this is a 5-year plan, right? And so I don't think Bennington is an 8-year plan. And I don't think Bennington is in danger of becoming the next New York City in that period of time. Maybe not ever, probably. But I look at the proposed designated areas on page 15 that show the slight expansion of the designated downtown and the neighborhood areas. And there is some small growth in the footprint of those areas, right? And I think we hear a lot of conversations here about how to balance sort of growing as a town, adding housing supply, and balancing that with sort of protecting the natural resources we have and sort of the scenic views and sort of the character of this area. And so I think what I've seen in here for an 8-year plan feels like a good rate of growth for the town to be pursuing over that period of time. Likewise, it's maybe a little off topic, but you know, I personally am generally positive on some of the new nuclear technologies that are out there. But again, this is like an 8-year plan, and those plans tend to take 20 to 25 years of going through regulation and everything. So even if that were to happen here, if we were to have the workforce that could support something like that, that feels a bit further down the road than an 8-year plan here. You know, so I think, I mean, I have other comments on the housing section, but if we're sticking to point 1, I'll leave that for now.
Jim?
Yeah, I've been going through crossing out some of my questions, so. But this one, I have one that really is just a question because I was curious about the derivation of the data, which I'm sure is accurate. Sorry, this is in the housing section, so okay. No, let me jump back. Okay, on page, I'm on page 42. The beginning of the text in that page, is talking, a sentence is talking about the life expectancy in the western part of Bennington. contrasting it with the northeastern part, and it's over a 10-year difference, which, is pretty striking, and I'm sure it's accurate, and I'm just wondering if that might have something to do with the presence of the retirement community in the west side of Bennington, having, a high concentration of elderly people. It may have something to do with the fact that Clark lives there. No, no, it may have something to do with the, the income disparities or something like that, but just leaving it there kind of leads you to believe that there's something really radical going on, and I'm not sure that that's the case.
It should at least be pointed out if it's about demographics because of senior housing more concentrated in that area. It probably just needs to be called out.
So I can certainly, because I do remember this discussion, and it is a, I'll say it, a gross disparity. And if you read the text that leads up to that, there's a very strong correlation between affluence and lack thereof. So those areas that are experiencing high poverty have significantly lower life expectancy than those who have a somewhat more affluent lifestyle. So it is something that is very, very stark, and it speaks to the disparity that does exist in our community, not just with regard to poverty rates, but also quality of schools in certain areas, et cetera. So it's definitely an issue, and we don't shy away from it, and that's why we call it out.
For that chapter.
I think another issue we need more information on is the section local foods. We've heard bits and pieces for several years now. Just over the weekend, I tried to find out more information about this Fair Food Initiative I've heard about for several years. And I found an article that ran in Vermont Digger 3 years ago, long article, about a $5 million facility that's supposed to go up on Shields Drive, the community market, the gardens they just put at the vet's home, the farm at Bennington College. These were facilities that got some of the $2.2 million federal money that Shannon brought to Bennington County a few years ago. And the question is, how are these projects and programs going to be funded and stay in business when the grant money runs out? So there must be somebody from the board of directors that can come in and tell us, what is their plan for the county and the region? How are they going to fund the plan?
Tom,
Where are you in the plan?
What is this? Where is this
We're
in the plan?
talking about local foods.
Well, but we need something specific. If you're going to talk about the town plan, talk about the town plan, please.
Well, 37, page 37, let me see. Access to fresh, healthy food that is affordable, culturally diverse, is essential for a good quality of life. Bennington is an important part of the region food system and a hub for local foods. Well, for a couple of years, we all read one article after another when the community market opened. It would be affordable grocery store in downtown Bennington we'd been waiting for, even for people at the low-income level. It's very nice, but it is not an affordable grocery store. That's why I think it's important we understand what is the real plan, the total plan for this fresh food Bennington County regional plan that groups got $1 million grant several years ago for. They were supposed to have come up with a plan, and by now we should know what the plan is.
I think you're confusing the issue here a little bit, in that the town plan does not specifically talk about specific programs that various organizations might be running. It simply says that we should, let me find it here. We should continue to support local food distribution and meal programs in Bennington. And it says we should explore the expansion of existing community gardens, et cetera. Now, do you object to those things?
No, but I'm saying that there is a plan. We should know what the plan is.
But
The plan is to support those things
Right,
according to this plan.
This is the plan. That is the plan. What you're talking about are specific programs that might fall into criteria under the plan, but that's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing the plan itself.
I don't know, maybe Nancy would want a reference included to the plan to some of the specific initiatives. I mean, I don't think that's
Well,
that's out of place in a plan.
As a town, we have a big commitment.
Well, I think, if you point out that a specific program has happened, I mean, you can't really bring all the data and information from a separate program into the town plan, but I suppose you could reference it so people know that it's out there and they could look at it.
I'm just saying that several years ago it was announced, I forgot how many groups got a $1 million Mellon grant, and they were going to come up with a plan for the county and the region, all these affordable fresh food programs. Well, if I'm reading it in the town plan, by now we should know what the actual plan is. We have a big stake in the community market. I would like to know, understand how this is all going to tie in together.
Okay, but be that as it may, I mean, and I don't disagree with you, Jim, that we might reference some of those issues here. But again, you're talking about specific projects and reports back on specific projects. But I'm not saying we shouldn't do, but that's not what we're discussing here tonight.
Tom, if I may.
Go ahead.
If I may. I think that one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that the parts of this plan, the specific programs that are going to make up, that are going to help us to get us to our goals in this plan, they're going to evolve over the 8 years, like they have in the past, like they will in the future. So we can certainly reference what is in place when this town plan goes live, but I think we have to be prepared that those are always going to be evolving. Am I right?
Yeah.
Sarah, you just got it. Go ahead.
So, this is something I agree with. Just because I agree with the town plan, does it mean that I have to agree with things that are proposed under the town plan with different organizations?
No.
Okay.
Jackie?
Yeah, thank you. Nancy, don't let me put words in your mouth, but I want to take your point on board, actually. And I think maybe what you're pointing out is that there's perhaps an omission in this town plan proposal. I agree with my fellow board members that it maybe would be inappropriate to specifically talk about the Bennington community market in the town plan. But if, maybe your point is that the town plan could say something along the lines of the town will support and encourage sources of affordable food for the residents of Bennington. That's the kind of goal, like vision thing that we're talking about in the town plan here that would then be fulfilled by perhaps the community market or perhaps another organization.
I guess maybe not to have it in here, but if it's going to be referenced in here, we need information because our citizens have paid a town official to work on this for over 3 years. So we need to understand how are these programs going to get funded when their grant money goes out.
I think that's outside the scope of the town plan.
Yeah,
Sorry?
What was the answer to my question also a little?
What was it?
If we support this town plan individually or as a board, but we don't support another project or organization individually or as a board?
I'm just
Sarah, it's
saying,
tough
if
to hear you
it's
down
in here
here.
and talking about it, by now, we should have much more information than we've had. We've heard about this for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, this is what we're going to do. We still haven't heard the specific plan.
Okay. Then, I mean, I guess where I'm trying to come from is, I don't necessarily disagree with you that some things that we've tried have worked out better than others, but the town's plan is more of an aspirational document. So what we're saying here is that we need to support local food distribution. Does that mean that all of the programs that we've tried to do that in the past have been successful? No. Does that mean that that should not have been a goal in the past? Also no. It should have been a goal, and it should continue to be a goal, in my view. But the plan itself does not speak to specific actions or places or referendums or what have you. The plan says this is the goal, and then later on, we're to take the plan and come up with those ideas and projects to fulfill these goals.
Or reference those that might already be in place.
Exactly.
That are supporting those. I think we have to go back to what I was sort of saying before, and that is that the plan is where we want to be, and there are a whole bunch of things that are going to fall under that plan. So maybe Nancy, at the launch of this plan, the referenced program, the programs that we know of that are in place that are already designed to get us to certain aspects of the town plan, maybe they should be referenced. But I think that for wanting updates and information about those programs, those are things that we have to reach out for outside of the town plan. Like, I'm thinking about the food initiative that you're talking about. I'd be curious too to know where that is, but I think Shannon could report on that in and of itself, even though that we know that it ties into the town plan somehow. So I don't think that the town plan discussion is the same discussion as what are the programs that are driving it.
Okay. Kate, you had something.
This was on...
Yep, come to the microphone, please.
Okay, this is a general comment, so I don't know, because I haven't had a chance to get, this is Kate Cost, Bennington. I haven't had a chance to go through it immerse myself in it, but it's a general comment about a suggestion maybe, recommendation, comment, that elements of the plan in various chapters be integrated. For example, let's see, on page 42, as you say, Jim, the table on inequality that's there. Such a high rate of growth between, and I'm sorry, even my trifocals won't read that. I think it's from 20 to 23, maybe? 21, thank you. It's such a huge increase in inequality, speaks to the importance of the social determinants of health, which is manifested in inequality. So for example, access to food, access to affordable housing, access to health care, which you've got all the way through this. But then you take a look at the table on, what is this? This is page 58, where we've got the demographics. And one of the things that strike me on the 422 is that you've got, and maybe there's another, I think there's another table maybe on on page 57, where you've got similar proportions of the population of Bennington for those under 19 and those over 65. And so I realized that the Ben High project really addresses elements of inequality by bringing resources together, but also in the housing, where you could have families there, market rate as well as low-income housing. And I would encourage you to sort of find other opportunities to develop that kind of housing. Because the issue becomes, and somewhere I have a comment, oh goodness, yeah. The fact that this is so back and forth there, which is why I was going kind of like this before. As an aspirational document, I would hope that you would bring those issues of inequality and age together in terms of the future planning for almost everything that you do. And that's, thank you.
Thanks. Clark.
Hi. One of the things, and I looked at that graph that caught my eye when you talk about the income inequality, everyone in this room knows in 2020, a large number of people, very affluent people, shifted here for public health issues. So I think that in itself skewed the numbers. I don't think in terms of normal progression that would be the progression for this income inequity. But, again, it's a public health issue coupled with financial issues. But I think that peak kind of, in my mind, is a bit skewed and really should be considered more of an outlier than a mainstream element to this.
Hopefully that's one of those things that becomes evident as you review this every 8 years.
Right.
And it will be interesting to see what that looks like. And I'm sure that the 2020 pandemic had a lot to do with the outcome of this study.
Nancy, you had something?
I think for housing, we really need to be provided with a breakdown. All the units we have in Bennington, how many are private pay, people out of their own pocket? How many are affordable? How many are low income? I think people would be surprised. The number of apartments we have in this town that you have to be at the very low income to get into. When I think of all the apartment buildings built in my life in Bennington, single-family homes turned into apartments, other buildings turned into apartments. A lot of these apartments, you do have to be low income to get into, and I wonder sometimes, do we have too much low-income housing in Bennington? The other thing is jobs. Those of us who lived here all of our lives, we have watched thousands of private sector jobs with good pay and benefits leave Bennington. That's the one thing I go on and on for several years. If nobody's trying to bring light manufacturing or jobs where somebody can work 40 hours a week without a degree to, work the 40 hours and you can afford to live here. We don't have many of those jobs left, and I'm not aware of anybody trying to bring them here.
Let's go. Clark, you just talked. We'll go to Jackie and then.
Yeah, I also really dug into the housing section a little bit. I think it's easy to sit up here or to be out in the community and to rattle off all of the challenges and the problems that we know that this town faces and frankly the country faces, income inequality and stuff. It's not surprising to me that went up in this area like it went up in the rest of the country, right? I actually was really excited to see a lot of the resources that were put in here to, be solution-focused in here and try to find ways to build more housing and to have it be affordable with the CHIP program that's in here. The affordability calculators, housing needs assessment. I especially dug into the Homes for All toolkit. I have every confidence that everyone that worked to put this report together went and found some of the best resources that were available in our local area and across the state to figure out how to build housing more affordably. When I sat down and dug into some of the numbers, though, especially from the Homes for All toolkit, I was a little discouraged to see that even their numbers seemed very optimistic, and when I put in, what I considered, some more reasonable numbers, it still seemed like there was a real challenge to build housing in a way that's both affordable for renters and for investors. That I think for me, that's not necessarily a shortcoming of this report. That speaks to a shortcoming, of a larger scale that I hope we can continue to focus on. Again, thank you for the resources that you did find, and I wish there were better ones.
Clark, you had something?
Yeah, I can't help but restate that, in fact, the concerns that Nancy has expressed and so many people we've met in this town expressed, we're trying to do that. As I said earlier, we have been since August meeting and trying to orchestrate a program to address some of these things. It didn't take 6 months to get here, and it's going to take considerably more than 6 months to fix it. But the idea that no one is trying or no one is looking into addressing these issues, that's why I said earlier that reading this plan and reading the documents that we've generated and the discussions we've had, we're moving in parallel. But, it's the old crawl, walk, run. We're trying to get up off scooting on our bellies, so hopefully we'll be crawling soon, and then we'll be able to do some walking.
Jim?
Thank you. I almost threw my list here. There's one thing that really stuck out to me looking through the plan as a resident of Bennington and North Bennington. Living in North Bennington, I am a resident of Bennington too. And you wouldn't know that by looking at some of the images and maps in the plan. And so, yeah, like the roads just stop when they get to the village boundary. And I know this is something that the Planning Commission talked about. And, you know, there's public facilities and services that are certainly used by residents of Bennington, in North Bennington, and to a lesser extent in Old Bennington, and in many cases paid for by residents of Bennington. And I just think that while North Bennington and Old Bennington have their own plans, as part of the town of Bennington, we should at least show the public facilities, the public roads, the libraries, the parks that are part of the greater Bennington community. And those are maps specifically on pages 48, 54, and 59.
Jim, I can speak to the west side. That I'm out there and there's nothing else. I see the map just reflects a fire station, but you know, the west side also is represented as a void.
I mean, North Bennington has parks, it has a library, it has roads, that are, like I say, that North Bennington has its own highway department, but it is a little bit disorienting to see major roads going into the villages and then disappearing. So I don't. It wouldn't be like that. And you don't want to. I get it. You don't want to. This is about Bennington. It's not specifically about North Bennington and Old Bennington. But I would just repeat that North Bennington and Old Bennington are part of Bennington.
As an Old Bennington resident, I want to add to that and just say that looking at this map, people may wonder why there's a big white splotch in the middle of it that says Old Bennington. I think it's important, to exactly the point that Jim is making, that the residents of those villages are Bennington members, and they are getting a fair amount of their municipal services through the town of Bennington. And so where we may have replacement services for some small parts of life, we would follow along with the parts of these town plan that are applicable.
Okay, I'm going to move to final comments for this evening, because we are a little over time and we do have another hearing coming.
Just
Go
quick,
ahead.
one number I found surprising. In 2012, the people living in the town of Bennington, born in Vermont, 53.5. In 2022, 44.3. So the number of people living in Bennington, born in Vermont, is dropping. Kind of sad. It makes you wonder, why are people leaving?
It's also a fact that we've created such a vibrant community that people are moving to it as well. But there is a drain, I think, statewide of younger people going away, which is certainly a topic for another day. But all right, anything else from anybody in closing for today?
I just want to comment that I've seen a lot of improvement in that age disparity, and the fact that our general reputation in Bennington was that we could not keep our young people here after they graduate. And I know many that are here that don't leave, and I know some that are coming back after college or after, young relationships. So I think that it's being addressed, and I think that we're seeing progress.
I think the Shire's Young Professional Group is quite large and very vibrant. They're doing a lot of good work in the community. So,
And we're seeing a tremendous amount of interest and effort on the part of Bennington College for the first time in a number of years. I've been talking for 20 years about the disconnect between the college community and the rest, and I'm seeing that change now in terms of attitude.
And that is one of the goals in the town plan, to support and encourage more of that.
Jim, close us out.
And this is a comment in response to what Mr. Perkins was saying. I didn't respond to that because this is a public hearing about the new town plan, but I would be more than happy at the appropriate time to correct the misstatements that were made during Mr. Perkins' presentation and provide a full background and history on the proper adoption of the Bennington Town Plan and why it did not expire.
I think it's important to make that available, Jim, so thank you. I know that we have vetted it every which way, and I know this board was very comfortable with where we stood, but the fact that there are still members of the public that don't believe it, we don't want taxpayers to be left with something that isn't believable.
And just piggyback on there, those of you who know me and have listened to me in my tenure before and during I came to the board, I in fact had concerns that were brought to me by members of the community, and I worked very hard and spoke to a lot of people to find out what happened. And as Jim stated here, there's a reason, and we sat down, we talked about it, and I am now satisfied with that explanation. But again, if from a superficial standpoint, pulling a piece of paper and reading it and looking where there may be empty spots, well, why is this empty spot to here? I think, Jim's offer will fill those empty spots, because where there's an empty spot, there's a question. And if you have unanswered questions, in my mind, it tends to lead you astray. So I think I would highly recommend anyone in the community who's truly interested spend some time with Jim here, and he'll answer your questions, because he answered mine, and I'm sure enough of you here have heard me speak about this in the past, and I'm satisfied.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to close this portion of the public hearing. We will be doing this again in 2 weeks, and I would love to hear from more members of the public.
Yes, bring your neighbors.
If at all possible. This is the town plan. It's a very important document, and the more public participation we get, the better it's going to be. So thank you all for your work, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Dan Monk's grand list, errors and omissions. Actually, I think error and omission.
Yes, it is error and omission. I think you all, there was a explanation included in your packet, essentially 2 parcels on Jefferson Avenue, both 112 and 114 Jefferson Avenue. They were originally assessed as separate parcels. After hearing from the owner, it was determined that they should have been assessed as a single parcel with a homestead exemption attached to it. Once the assessor's office made that determination and recalculated the tax bill, because the homestead exemption applied to the entire 2 parcels as opposed to just one of the parcels, the net tax change was approximately $158.47. So essentially what we need this evening is for the select board to approve the correction of this error and omission as presented by the assessor's office, so that we can update and correct our grand list.
All right, do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Sure, second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have one of my ill-informed discussions.
Go ahead.
I remember sitting in once on one of the Board of Civil Review meetings discussing adjustments and an assessment on a piece of property that was delinquent on taxes. Is this something that would have gone before them, or is this an exclusive?
This is, as we said, an error and omission. It's not a discretionary decision that the Board of Civil Authority would make. For instance, if a house burned down or something, you folks could make the decision to exempt that property from taxes for that year. That's a decision the board has to make.
Okay.
But for something like this, which is simply by state law, if a property is owned by the same person, that parcel merges together for tax purposes. And prior to the assessment period, this property changed from being in two separate names to one single ownership.
Okay.
And so that's why this automatically triggers this combination.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's a very good question. It's, what does the Board of Civil Authority do? What does the assessor do? And, but in this particular case, because it's mandated by state law, it's assessors. Just needs to correct it.
All right, anything else? All right, seeing nothing else, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? We are unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, we don't find any more. If we can stick to one error and omission, that'll be good.
Dan, I guess you can just leave your microphone on.
All right.
Manager's report.
Move into the manager's report. Just a couple of quick things this evening. My understanding is the portion of the Ninja Path that's being constructed from the self-storage facility all the way past Route 279 is wrapping up in the next couple of weeks. We do actually have planned in the next, I think it's in November 7th, tentatively right now, a walkthrough with the state and town and contractor to determine if the project is substantially complete. We expect the final paving to occur. It was going to occur early this week. Now it looks like it's not going to be until Thursday, but we hope that all the paving will be done by the end of this week. The bridge, as you know, is already in, and I know they're working to get the last bit of landscaping, mulching, and seeding, et cetera, done. So that project may actually wrap up before the end of this construction season, and we'll hope to move forward with another phase as soon as possible to be discussed during budget time. So more to come on that. Joan already mentioned the community survey. Did just want to do a shout out for the skate park Halloween skate jam. The Friends of the Skate Park are hosting a Halloween skate jam on October 31st from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. I'm told there'll be live music, food trucks, a costume contest, and more. So that could be a lot of fun for folks October 31st. And just a follow-up on Harvest Fest, by all accounts, it was an excellent event. I checked in with the Police Department, Buildings and Grounds, and Department of Public Works, and they report that everything went smoothly. So that's kudos to BBC for pulling off a well-organized event. It's never easy to do a large event like that and without hiccup. So we're very happy to see that occur. I did want to follow up on the senior center. We are going to go with some changed hours at the senior center itself. The new hours will be from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Fridays. But adult program will be offered continuously through Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Bennington Sports Center. And there will be no change in the fee structure. Seniors can participate in either building in senior center programs, senior programs at no cost. So that we'll be evaluating that as we go forward. I think, as everyone knows, within about a year, we'll all be consolidating at the Ben High facility. So there's lots of change still to occur, but hopefully this will serve the needs of folks in the interim.
And Dan, those hour changes came about mainly because we tracked when people were using the
Yeah, and this has been a long time, I guess, anecdotally, we all kind of knew it, but the why, because they're very structured and careful about following attendance. They were able to document over the last 9 months that the senior center is rarely used in the afternoon, except on Friday afternoons, whether bingo night or bingo is a big draw. So they thought, rather than try to staff 2 facilities, it made sense to staff 2 facilities in the morning and 1 facility in the afternoon, where there are significantly more seniors attending that facility. They've grown the attendance and the participation in senior programming at the Bennington Senior Center exponentially. And it's, as Tom mentioned, we will be having the YMCA in the near future to talk about not only their senior programs but other things. But they've been very successful in their senior programming. In fact, there are waiting lists for many of their programs there. So we're happy to see that the senior community, the number of seniors served in our community is expanding.
All right, thanks very much.
Question on manager's report.
Okay, go ahead.
I support special events, skateboard park, wherever. But next time, could somebody talk to us ahead of time? Just if we have a question. This was the first time I saw the flyer, and the concern I have is the costume contest, 8 to 8:45. I don't know if people will be taking little kids, but it's going to be dark. If little kids are there, I'm just concerned about them in the parking lot with all the cars and the traffic on Depot and River. And I don't know if that's something, if we talked, at a meeting briefly, if they might have done it earlier, or if this is for older kids or adults. I wish it kind of made that clear.
Understood. It is not a town event. It's a Friends of the Skate Park event, and we don't typically micromanage those types of
Well,
events.
that's a town facility.
It is.
So whoever the friends are, I just think as a courtesy, they could come in front of the board. My thing is, I don't want to hear some little kid got hit by a car.
I think it
why I
might have been
just
helpful
think-
if they came in just to inform us ahead
Uh-huh.
of time. I think it also would have been helpful if they'd let us know, just so that more people would hear about it. So I
Yeah.
think that would be, I think you could kill, I think you're correct that letting us know ahead of time might have been better.
Sorry, we probably need to give them a first-year pass. As
Yeah.
this is their first pretty big event after a very successful grand opening celebration.
Anything else for him, Nancy?
Yeah, just quick question. The bathrooms for the skateboard park, is anybody still considering the building on top of the bowl? Or are we going to have like a small building next to the skateboard park?
I think when we have plans in that direction, they'll come before this board and we'll be able to discuss them.
I've tried to get an answer to this for a year.
There actually is no answer yet.
There is no
Nancy.
answer, Nancy. We have no final answer. Nothing has been
Okay, so
decided yet.
we are not going to hear about the building on top of the bowl.
We may
You
someday,
may at
but
some
nothing's
point.
in plan right
Yeah,
now.
There's no plan right now.
Okay, the water and sewer lines were ran last year, correct?
Oh, the water line, not the sewer line.
Point of order.
Yeah,
Are we on the
that's- first of all,
manager's
we're not on
report?
manager's report anymore
Thank you.
with this question, unfortunately. But, yeah, we can look at it in other businesses. I'm going to go upcoming agenda. We have Superintendent Payne will be coming to talk to us. He requested some time. He wants to go over, he wants to talk about taxes, from what I understand.
I'm sorry, who was this?
Superintendent Payne from the school district. He's the new superintendent. He'll be in at our next meeting. We will be hearing from the Y, if not next meeting, then in December. We, of course, have another town plan hearing at our next meeting. We are going to have to take action on appointing a new town clerk. I did speak to Cassie. She said it was okay that I mentioned it, Dan?
Yes. I spoke to her as well.
As Cassie is retiring, and we will have to fill her seat for the remainder of the term. And we are working on something regarding homelessness, possibly in December or January. Dan, do you have anything else?
I know there's obviously other things that are on the upcoming agendas, but as far as the next agenda, I think we saw how long it took to get through the town plan hearing, so I don't want to stack that next meeting up too much if we don't have to, but, obviously that's your choice.
All right, other business. Nancy?
Well, I'd like to have a discussion publicly before the end of the year. I think the select board should be the ones discussing and voting on leases that the town taxpayers pay for nonprofits, so this is a public discussion and people are aware.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. I think the board needs to talk about open meeting law. I'm concerned that up to 3 people from the board can go off and discuss issues and talk to other groups and organizations when the majority of the board isn't present. I don't think this was getting done 9 or 10 years ago. I think everybody used to get the information at one time, and I think this is something we need to discuss and come to an agreement on.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. I would just like to add to the news on the skate park Halloween skate jam that I did see on Facebook today, that Stewart's was nice enough to donate 100 ice cream certificates that will be handed to the first 100 skaters who are wearing helmets at the upcoming skate jam. Jim?
I don't have anything, Tom.
Jackie?
Nothing tonight.
Clark?
Yes. I've been polling the Main Street business people and all about some of the issues we'd like to address. I think I sent an email on the priority one in terms of establishment of free speech zones, so to speak. And I'd like to somehow move forward with that on as an agenda item. I realize we got holidays coming up and everything, and it's not a life or death thing, but I truly feel that we need to address that, because the businessmen, it's very odd to walk into business and everybody agree with me. I spent all Friday afternoon and part of today going through all the open businesses and discussing my concerns or views, and I got nothing but positive feedback on these changes. So I think we need to have a public discussion and move forward on that.
All right. Thanks. Ed?
Thanks, Tom. I have a couple things that I wanted to mention. First of all, I wanted to thank the folks at Coggins and the Bennington Banner for what was a terrific trunk or treat this past weekend. I happened to have the ability to volunteer at it, and what a great event. And I could see how hard those folks worked to pull that off. So I shout out to Susan Plaisance, her team at the Banner, and the Coggins team for pulling that together. We mentioned ad nauseum tonight the fact that there's a town plan being developed. We talked a little bit about Old Bennington. I wanted to mention to the public that Old Bennington is in the same stage of planning that the town is, and BCRC is the contractor that was selected to help us to administer that plan. Although it's an Old Bennington plan, I think that it's important that town residents are aware of what's in it, because it is such a tremendous asset to life in Bennington as a whole. I'm sure that people know this, but it's worth repeating that the Bennington Monument is the second most visited tourist destination in the state. I'm looking at my experts over here. Is it the most? Okay, so we've got to take care of Old Bennington in a way that preserves that, for sure. Last weekend, there was a walking tour of Old Bennington that was organized by the BCRC, and that was designed just to create awareness and establish a dialogue with residents, and I was grateful that that happened and went on it. And next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, the Old Bennington trustees have their normal monthly meeting. This particular month, it's going to be at the Bennington Theater right here on Main Street. I'm thinking about who helped us to do that, because the developers of the Willemsack Inn are going to spend the first substantial period of time. It's an Old Bennington trustees meeting, just as this meeting is open to the public, but we're going to dedicate the first part of that so that folks can see the Willemsack Inn presentation. We'll allow Old Bennington residents to speak first, but everybody who is there, time permitted, will be able to speak to those developers. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We do have need for an executive session to discuss contracts and personnel. We will not be taking action following that executive session. So thank you, the 4 of you that stayed for the whole meeting. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, folks.
Could I please have a motion to go into executive session?
I move that we move into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?